All right. What up? What up? We're here at FIFO. Got my boy Samnang Man here. This is Flow In, Flow Out. We are a podcast that we came together. Samnang's into personal development life coach. I'm just trying to become a better human being, an entrepreneur. We both connected over social media, over the type of content that we shared. Went to high school together, didn't really talk much in over 20 years. And we got together over the content. And the next episode, Sam Nang was like, hey, you know what? We should record a podcast. And so literally we recorded our next Zoom call. And that's how this whole thing started. So very organic, very authentic. New episodes drop every Monday and Friday. So yeah, here we are. Sam Nang, what's up, man?
Yeah, what's up? Great introduction, Danny. Look, we were talking about like how we're starting to look like each other and stuff, instead of being like friends.
We planned this. We hit each other up
The
beforehand.
the influence is real, dog. The influence is real. But as again, the introduction was wonderful, and we are on episode 13, and we're still making it work and still refining things. So this episode, we got lots of things to catch up. So we're just gonna talk about the episode and how to make it better. I created show notes and everything. So, and basically that's what today's talk is going to be about. And then tell you guys a little bit about my trip and how I feel about entrepreneurship and whatever's on our mind. And then talk about our coaching, and anything that we want to talk about. So this episode is just
I
basically
got something. I got something exciting to share too. I got a cool thing I'm trying with my wife. For those of you that have a partner,
inspire each other. And we're still looking for guests of the podcast. That's a big thing too. So we got some pretty cool people in our network. But if you're hearing our episodes and you like what you hear and stuff and want to be a future guest, just send us a message on one of our social media platforms. We're all over the internet. Pretty easy to find us. Again, I'm the head coach at Peak Performance Academy. So it's a personal development school that I'm putting together. And this just came together. The reason why we're here making this podcast is because it aligned with my vision. Because Danny was speaking my love language, and I hit him up. I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" So there's a few people that want to be in this space, and there's some people that are interested in being in the space, or maybe don't know how to get into the space. So podcast and creating a personal development community for me to inspire and show you my wins and losses, and just help people. The mission is to elevate the collective vibrations. My vibrations, they go up and down, and I could talk to you. What I do want to talk about on this podcast is my vibrations fell really low these last couple of days, just because. And we could talk a little bit about more, but I always felt like my vibrations were pretty high, but they were low. So I was feeling actually pretty sad these last couple of days. So, and it's like people think like I'm always happy and like upbeat all the time. There's times I still have lows. So that's part of the journey. And to tell you the wins and the losses as well too. That's the real big thing that happens in entrepreneurship. It's tough, right?
the roller coaster, man. It's
Bro,
the ups and downs, and there's all sorts of emotional roller coasters. There's monetary roller coasters. Literally, like entrepreneurship is every roller coaster you could ever experience that you ever want to ride. Whether you want to spin, whether you want to go up and down, whether you want to get launched out of a fucking rocket or drop from the sky straight to the ground. You got it all, man.
good
Every
description.
experience in entrepreneurship.
There is a book. I don't know who wrote it, but it was called like the Millionaire Roller Coaster or the Entrepreneur's Roller Coaster. And I was like, okay, it's definitely one of those moments where it felt kind of low, but then I started doing things. Okay, so I can update you on my trip from Turk and Caicos. So we went before Turk and Caicos. I was really in my flow, in like my work zone. You know what I'm saying? I'm not sure if you are aware of
Mhm.
that. When you have like snowboarders, they're like in the zone. Nothing could break their concentration, right?
Yep.
So I was fully immersed in my work and everything, and like in the zone, like hitting. almost everything, like working out, sleep was good, work was good, making
You was
progress.
firing hot, man,
Yeah,
hitting.
making the progress that I need to make the progress. And then, I had to put my brakes on and go on this trip. And I was like, right. While I'm leaving, is like, like I had this daily routine of like working out and setting my time day. And this trip had no gym anywhere in sight. Anywhere. I mean, I could have done push ups and everything, but it's like
You're on vacation,
not the same.
right?
I was like, God. So it was like 5 days without me lifting weights. By end of it, I was so like anxious. I don't know how it really is. When I tell people it's part of my mental health, that is by the end of, I had like, I didn't like I before I wouldn't tell people this, but like I had 2 panic attacks by myself, right? When I was sleeping in the night, I had to do some like breathing that I know how to do, but twice on this trip. And I was like, and I told I had a coaching call with a college friend of mine, and we were talking about the same thing too. He's an entrepreneur, and he's had a health scare. And the thing that we're talking about now, I think that's like real, is that like our last guest, Eamon, came on and he talked about like having like a health scare to kind of like wake him up that, hey, you need to start focusing on your health.
Yeah.
So I talked to my college friend at the same time too, who's in the same boat, entrepreneur. He's in the jewelry business, but he's got a health scare, something with his migraines that keeps happening and stuff. And he's starting to clean up his diet, and he also quit drinking too. He told me he was like he quit drinking 5 years ago. I was like, oh shit, maybe more people should talk about the benefits of not drinking. I was like, I think that's a good future topic or thing that I think we should bring up, because back in the day, you know how like college, everybody was smoking cigarettes, and I was like, why is
Yep.
everybody smoking cigarettes, right? To me now, as like a 38-year-old adult, it's like, why are people drinking alcohol when they know it's like fucking terrible for you, like terrible?
Yeah, man. It's the glorification, man, that the edification of it, like I think it's all over. Like celebrities have their own, bottle brands. It's in everything, right? It's an idea of success. And then there's cult followings, bourbon, obviously. Like I was big into bourbon.
Yeah,
So I would spend
it
I spent $250 on a bottle. It was the most expensive one that I bought, and me and my buddy polished it off within the same night that I bought it.
was it worth it?
I mean, I will. I had. This is going to be the wrong answer probably but um, I would say at the time, yes, because at the time it was like it's a story that I can share. It was a place that I was financially that I could afford it, right?
Yeah.
And kind of like a celebration around that. So was it worth it for the experience to be able to say that I got a nice bottle like that? Sure. At the end of the day, could I have taken that $250 and done something even cooler and better? 100%.
Yeah.
Like it's not like the booze. And I think like now I look at it, and if I were to do a celebration like that and spend $200 or $300, I would probably do something very different, right? Like it would be much more experiential. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe for me, I think I needed to get to that place to understand that I had a problem.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like maybe, and like I don't know. I don't have much regret in my life. So I look back at things and reflect on them, find the positives in them, and then understand like those are part of the things that made me who I am today.
Yeah.
So
I think alcohol has a place in your life, like the socializing part. Like I thoroughly enjoyed my college days, and without alcohol, it probably would have been a different experience, right? Because everybody was getting to know each other, and alcohol just helped socialize. And I went to Virginia Commonwealth University, which it was a fantastic school. I'm glad I went there. Did I get the best education? Probably not, but I went there to get a business degree. Well, I didn't know. get a business degree, but I was very inclined to go to business because I don't know. I don't know why but so I ended up going to the business school. But the biggest thing I learned in college was actually to be able to, like, they call it networking, but for me, it was
Mhm.
just creating like friendships, relationships, and stuff, people, right, and connecting with people. I never saw it as like networking, like when people say you build this network, but it's like they're friends and people that I actually want to serve with my message and stuff. So now it's like for me, like when I'm trying to, like, we're men of service, we're preaching our good word or what we believe and stuff. It's like, who do you want to help? And I was like, to me, it's like I want to help my friends. I want to help my community members, the people that have supported me through college and like enjoyed my wins. Yes, there's some haters in that group that I don't know about, and people that probably talk shit about me. But it's like there's more people out there that listen to your message and stuff. And so, I think talking about alcohol today might be a good subject while we talk about our admin stuff that we need to talk about too. Uh,
Well, and and before we go too far down the alcohol rabbit hole, because I still want to wrap up this part of the story because I didn't get this part. So one thing I'll say about alcohol that I realized, and one of the reasons why it's not worth it, alcohol robs you of now. It robs you of the present. Even though you think that it does, like you think that it helps and like enhances the present moment, I think it robs you of it because it speeds up time. Time goes faster. You become numb. And then reflecting back, like oftentimes it's like, it's a hazy memory. So it's not like, I think if anything, you lose the moment with alcohol, and the moment part of it. That's what I wanted to come back to you on, because I'm so curious. You said early on, and we didn't like get to the core of it.
uh-huh.
So you were in your flow, right? And you're
Yeah.
crushing it. You're working out.
Uh-huh.
Enter Turks and Caicos,
Oh,
vacation, curveball, no
oh,
gym. You're partying with your friends, and then you came home, and now you're in a rut. So what happened? Like,
so what happened? So, okay, the first 2 days were good, right? And then by like Monday, Tuesday, since there was no gym and just being out of my work and stuff, I just got in a big like emotional like funk. I literally, like, when I came home, I was like, I was so homesick. That was the word. Like my daughter had a birthday on Tuesday, or I think it was Wednesday. I can't remember the date. But then I was like, oh my god, I felt so guilty that I wasn't home to be able to. I went to go see them directly after, and then just missing like my gym, like literally my gym, just to be able to wake up, and then because I have so much energy in the morning that I need to go like do something and get my mind right, and the gym is like the first thing for me to do something and just get my mind right, and then everything else seems kind of easy to me. If like I have some hard training, like I had to put the functional aesthetics program together, and I have to finish reading this book.
yeah, it's a good one.
And then trying to find some my ideal customers and stuff. So uh the reason why I was coming back, and I was really anxious when I came back too, and the trip was uh fairly stressful as well too, so it threw me a lot like off mentally, not having the
Mhm.
time to meditate and just like do my therapy. Like I still like I do therapy by myself. That's why I have a lot of time for like solitude, and the therapy is to help me get my thoughts out, my expression out, my workout and everything. It's just like the meditating, the working out, and the solitude. So when I do speak, I have stuff to say, not just like burned out and everything. So, you know how I always talk about how I'm real big on like energies and stuff?
Yeah.
That trip kind of drained me, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I think there's something to be said there, man, because I think there's a lot of people that experience that, right? Like that go on vacations and come back into their, reality, their life. And it's interesting, man. In a way, it's almost like alcohol, right? Vacations go like that, right? They go fast for most people. They have, they have fun. They check out of reality. They go into an alternate reality that's vacation mode,
Hmm.
and then they come back, and it's like you get this overwhelming sensation. Now, couple that with the fact that for you, the gym is your therapy in a lot of regard, right? And that's where you get a lot of things, both physically and mentally. So to not have the gym, not have a gym, go on vacation, daughter's birthday, missing that, feeling guilt. Um, yeah, man, I'm sure. And then like coming back, and then you're running this business, starting a business up too. It's a lot. It's a lot of moving parts. And the one thing I've been practicing recently that's been helping me, and especially in like times of like darkness, because like I trust me, like I think we all go up through our ebbs and flows, right? I go through weeks where I'm like, what the fuck am I doing, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I distinctly had a week actually just recently, like maybe a week or two ago. It was the first time since I went sober that I had such a stressful week that I was like, I want to drink. And actually, it was such a strong urge and such a familiar urge. Like it was the first time since I quit drinking that I legitimately craved a drink.
Yeah.
Like
It was that.
really craved it, and it was a scary feeling. I was like, and it was because of stress. Is the reason why I wanted it. I was so stressed that I was like, I just want to have a drink. And I ended up calling up my buddy, and my buddy Will, who we'll have on as a guest at some point. And he was the guy that kind of helped inspire me to become sober. And then he's been like my accountability buddy ever since. He's also happens to be one of my best friends. My kids call him Uncle, right? So I called him up and I'm like, hey man, like this is the weirdest thing, but I have like a significant craving for a drink. And so like I bring that up just because I think
Craving.
it doesn't matter what state we're at, where we're at, right? Like we're going to hit those lows. And one of the things that I have been practicing, and it's an ever learning process, right? And I know that you'll relate to this, and maybe you even do this too. In the low moment, that is one of the best times to practice gratitude,
Yeah.
right? Like when you are down on yourself, if you can use that as a mental trigger to when you're in a funk, you're down, you're depressed, you feel stressed, there's too much to do, you miss time,
Yeah.
so on and so forth. That is the moment that you should trigger insert gratitude and be grateful for the down, be grateful for the moment, be grateful for the struggle, be grateful for all the things. And then all of a sudden you can change the lens out, right? And you can then apply how you can look at it in whichever light you want, which
Yeah.
is I hate my life, or it's all right, I'm thankful that I have this opportunity to grow,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Those struggles definitely like I bring it up because I like to watch Dragon Ball, which is this comic book in Japan. It's like a martial arts, and I actually grew up with it. It's still going on, and the main character, is like the same age as me. So like, I grew up watching it, and it develops or kind of showcases like a warrior spirit and stuff, and the love and the gratitude, like when you're at those low moments and stuff. But knowing that the hard stuff is what makes us grow, right? It's a warrior spirit. And like when I do, like I literally tell everybody I like doing hard shit. My whole life has been like pretty hard on purpose. Like I chose it to be hard on purpose, and I do enjoy the moment. But then those lows are just like when you could just be grateful for like simple things, right? And gratitude is so big because it's not just saying I'm grateful for my husband, I'm grateful for my kids, or grateful for my work. Is actually feeling the gratitude, and thinking about it and stuff. And in Dragon Ball, Goku does like a special move that he does, like when he's getting his ass beat because he's a warrior. He's always getting his ass beat, and him and his partner Vegeta, they're always getting the ass beat, but they're always going for the fight so they could grow and stuff. But there'll be like scenes where like Goku's about to die, like he's hanging on a thread, and they compare him to like Superman in like this universe, but he's always about to die. The whole saga is about him about to die, and then he emits this thing called the spirit bomb. Right? It's like when I say woo woo, right? The woo woo energy. The woo woo, the spirit bomb kind of collects literally for like 5 or 6 episodes. It's such a big build up and everything, but that spirit bomb is what like brings him back to life and like his purpose and everything. And he always continues to fight. They never die. They just get close to the brink of death, and then they figure it out. And they've been growing for like I think they've been on TV for like 25 years in
Yeah,
Japan.
it's a huge. I remember it as a kid.
Yeah, I love that
Yeah.
show. And I still watch it. And when I watch it, I was like, oh, I feel like a fucking kid again, a grown up version.
No, but I think that's a good point, man. And like that's just it, right? Like I started realizing like, and this is something that I realized how I navigate the roller coaster, especially when you're trying to do something, right? And for us, like we're talking about the entrepreneurial roller coaster, but this is the same rules apply regardless of what you're trying to do in your life, right? If you're trying to become more fit, if you're trying to spend more time with your family, if you're trying to, it doesn't matter what you're working on. You could just be simply trying to not say no as much or not say yes as much, right? Whatever it is that you're working on. Um, there's always the ups and downs of it, right? And the one thing that I learned in my entrepreneurial side is in entrepreneurship, the ups typically are pretty high, right? Things you just launched a program, you just generated your first bit of revenue. Maybe it was the largest deal you ever had, record month, whatever it is, right? There typically tends to be a big high. And what I've learned is before I would really like explore the high, right? Like I would be like, I would dive into it and celebrate it. And, it
Yeah,
would
yeah.
be like a huge moment, hands up, let's party, big high. And because I would do that, I would have huge lows, right? And it was really spiky. What I realized is as I hit new highs, I stopped celebrating it as much.
Yeah,
More of like a pat on the back, good job. But here's
yeah,
the thing in entrepreneurship, you're expected, most people will expect you to have highs. That's the expectation. And when we look out and we look out to other entrepreneurs and we compare ourselves, because we ultimately do that, that's why we look at, follow other, influencers and listen to other words and read books because we're trying to emulate and figure out how to do this, right? And how to become better. And what's interesting is that if you look at it, like if we were to fast forward 5 years from today and look at where you become, as long as you've stayed consistent and you keep showing up, I guarantee you're going to be at a higher level of success, much higher than you ever probably anticipated. You'll probably even be doing something that you didn't even realize you could do, right? That's just the nature of the beast. But people will look back and they'll be like, well, yeah, it's because he's an entrepreneur, right? It's because he did that. You're expected to succeed.
yeah.
So when you're expected to succeed, when you succeed, it's like a self-validation of like, I'm there, I'm doing it, I'm doing it. What I've found is so what? And so
Yeah.
I've tried to now when I hit new highs, yeah, it's a much smaller like pat on the back, like good job, but it's not as glorified, right?
Yeah.
So I can emotionally take that high and I can drop it closer down, right? And I
I
can
like,
do the same thing with the low. I can not glorify the lows in the sense of like, how do you glorify a low? It's when you're like, oh, woe is me. This is so hard. And you self pity yourself, right? And it
yeah,
doesn't necessarily have to be those words. There's other ways that you can self pity yourself. But it's like, no, lows expected, highs expected. And as you do that, where it used to be a spread like this, now all of a sudden your spread's like this. And now you're not as emotionally
yeah.
taxing on the ups and the downs, and you're a little bit more even keeled and even state. And
That's
that's
a
something that I've kind
that,
of experienced.
that's a very yin yang philosophy you kind of just explained. That's how middle way is kind of like how you would describe it in like the Eastern philosophy type, and you basically just same thing. It's like when there's ups and downs, it's ebb and flows like this. If that is a little bit more predictable than going up there to there instead of like making
Right.
drastic stuff. Well, because when you're at the low, you can make some pretty drastic moves that could throw off things. And part of my philosophy is called kanai, is just small incremental pivots. Right? If you make a
Mhm.
big pivots that throw off everything or the original plan, it kind of screws everything up. So, like creating a vision and a plan on like how you want to look and how you want to feel or whatever, that's very important. Those visualization is actually like real work. It
Yeah.
when I people didn't look like it was like real work. It was just like writing down my thoughts or whatever, but it's actually like real work. You're really like putting the thought in and the feeling and the moment to stop, the time to write and do something towards your universe that you want to create. Sorry, but that was very yin yang of what you just kind of described, and I love it. And I use it all the time as well too. My ups and downs aren't as high, and when they are high and low, and same thing. I've been if you don't tell people your wins, you also don't tell people your losses. So
Yeah.
your loss, like my loss, I would always have to reframe it as a win. Alex Hormozzi always like talks about it. It's a mental reframe. And to somebody that's saw like, oh, he got fired. Like I get fired from jobs all the time. I'm in sales, right? If I don't hit like a KPI or like a quota or something, you're out of here, right? So there's this mutual agreement, and somebody will look like, oh my god, he got fired. He got fired. To me, it's like I look at my job as like dating. I'm trying to find the right one, and it doesn't matter what job I work. If it's sales, if it makes money and stuff. If it's working, most of the time it's just working for me. I look at those. Like I look at jobs and career a little bit different than regular people. So that's why I sometimes I don't explain it because it makes me look like if you looked at my resume, my actual real resume, and how many jobs I had, it's probably like close to like 20. you know, I've had
Yeah.
some like main jobs, but like side hustles, photography, working online, selling real estate. I've done a lot of shit, right? Did I make money and everything? No, no, not at all. I can't do cold calling. I can't knock on the door. I can't do in-house sales. I could do sales. You're trying to find your skill set and you're trying to build the skill set. That's for me. It's like I'm trying to build something out of, me. I look at my
Yeah.
career self-actualizing me too. So that I guess it's fairly new philosophy or just kind of what I'm trying to do is to spread the message that personal development you can incorporate into your career and into your life, you know?
100%, man. And I think, even in your career, right? And as you get I think you just hit the nail on the head, right? And for some people that a job is a means to do something else, right? A job and that's the difference. I think when people think about career versus job, right? A job is something that you trade time for money so you can survive.
Yeah.
And a career is something that you invest more than. It's not just about money and time. It's about, your legacy and what you're trying to do, your impact, your purpose on this world. And I think that that's a harder question to ask. And some people that, are lucky and they get it. They get it early on. I'm going to be a doctor. I want to save lives. Right. And that sticks with them for the rest of their life. And that becomes their life is their career. And I think the same rules apply. And for you, you've picked a career, you have a career, and your career is personal development and helping people, right? And there's probably a greater meaning and purpose to that also raises your vibration as people win around you. So then everything else becomes a job, and the job you're trading time for money so you can still survive, so you can focus in on things like what you're doing now with peak performance and everything. But there's another piece of it too, which is a job also provides you paid education, right? So if you look at your job in the sense of, well, what can I learn from this, right? Like, what can I take away from this? Even if it's something I'm good at, I'm bad at, I love, I hate, doesn't matter. What can I take away from it? And, for me, like what I realized in some of the jobs that I take, and even and for a lot of people, like the jobs that I had would be careers, right? It's kind of the pinnacle of their careers because I was in the executive seat. So as a
Yeah.
chief growth officer and a chief marketing officer, there was no more upward movement for me, right? Like I was at the top of the mountain, but it was a job for me. And what I realized, what I was taking away from those moments, right, was understanding how to run a business, understanding how to manage a team, manage my time, trying different marketing strategies, doing all these different things, right? But at the end of the day, it was a means to an end. It wasn't a lifelong career in that position for me. Um, Now I'm doing more along the lines of my career, which is wanting to create businesses and create companies for the sheer purpose of being able to deliver back more and more value to the world, through my own means and the way that I believe that I can bring value. And the way that I've really separated and differentiated myself in my space has been to bring the humanistic element back into marketing and realizing that digital marketing is merely a tool to scale your message, regardless of what digital marketing is. And I remember that's what you and I had just kind of talked about too, in one of our catch ups, is, far as like even what you're doing, right? And I think that there's something to be said about the humanistic element
Yeah, that's
and sharing stories like what you just shared of like I was in a low. That's a humanistic message, right?
yeah.
And think about that to your ideal audience within your space. How many of the folks out there that you communicate with also experience lows? Probably a lot, right? Um,
Sure. Anyway,
yeah. So that
anybody,
makes you a human.
yeah, anybody this
And
age is low. I don't, if anybody's gone through something at like this age, I always think you must live in like a bubble or something, or just have everything spoon fed and just not seen, or like maybe lived in like royalty or something. But uh, if you got through some real life or just kind of live in this type of class, or I guess it's middle class or something, you're gonna feel the ebbs and flows of the ups and downs of life, and it's real. And that the vulnerability piece, uh, I just it felt natural to me because I've gone through therapy and coaching and just doing a lot of like shadow work and just kind of doing that dark side that a lot of people avoid, and just sharing that message that the downs really make you who you are. The dark side and that lows, they really, when you practice gratitude, when you practice gratitude at a low and you're talking about it, when you get to that high moment, it just feels so much better because you appreciated the low. When I have the highs, I appreciate the highs. Now when the lows, I appreciate the lows as well too. So, and that just keeps me kind of in the middle as well too. But I think that's a good talk. It's a good philosophical talk. Um, I think do we need to talk about the podcast and the direction of what we want, or the admin stuff, or
sure,
how do you? I think
sure.
that was a
So, I mean, I can just share again, speaking honestly, and this is probably a good piece of a good note for others that are out there trying to start their own thing. So I'm not perfect, right? Right now, my kind of role on the admin side is to schedule out these podcasts and get them live. And I'm struggling with hitting a consistent scheduling on that. So that's something I'm working on. Like I'm downloading our last episode right now. It's about to go live. I need to batch my time and probably on Mondays, just start to schedule out on Mondays so I don't have to think about it and just make that as part of my routine. But that's one thing that I need to work on the end of it. Um, as far as like our content's concerned and like what we're starting to do as far as bringing on guests, I think, we had two guests. We had Philip Wilkerson, which is our first, who's one of your buddies. And then we had Eamon Garvey, who's a mutual friend of ours. I think he's probably spent more time with him recently than I have. But we brought him on. And, I think it was pretty interesting on both fronts, like hearing both of their stories. And I think we had some good conversation on that. And again, like when we're doing these, we're not really scripting it. And I don't think we necessarily need to. I think naturally we're going to start to find questions and things like that as we bring on guests that we're going to generally ask similar questions, and it's going to start to work itself out.
yeah.
Um,
I think that's
but
good.
I think I got inspiration from both, right? Looking at Philip, he's been podcasting for years and done hundreds of episodes, and there's an interesting thing that I just thought of, or that I thought of in that regard, right? And my neighbor just told me this. This is a little bit curveball, but I'll tie it back in. So my
Okay.
neighbor was over, and she was talking to me about how she still watches like daytime TV,
Uh
and
huh.
she's our age, right? And I'm like, really, daytime TV, like soap operas? And she's like,
Papa
yeah.
or Jerry Springer.
And she still watches General Hospital,
Oh, okay.
right?
That's like
And
wrestling.
yeah, and I think like I was like General Hospital, like that's like everybody knows, like has heard of General Hospital. And then she goes, yeah. They've been on for 57 years.
She's proud.
And
She's wild.
for 57 years, they have done 5 episodes a week for
Yeah,
57 straight years. That's mind-blowing to me. By today's standard, if you think about that, man, like by today's standard, if we just talk about in social media, right, and how people should be posting consistently, I know for a fact because I struggle with it. Also, I even my clients struggle with it. Realize how challenging it is to post 5 times a week on social media for us, like to do a 5 second post.
yeah. It's
It's a
challenging.
challenge, right? And so here they are doing full blown 20-minute episodes 5 days a week, nonstop for 57 years, right? Absolutely mind blowing. And so, how does this relate to the conversation? Well, back to Philip, and one of the things that I got out of Philip's conversation that I think was so impactful to me is he's been going on for what, like 5 years now, or
Yeah,
something like that, and he's done over 350 episodes. So he just kept showing up, kept
yeah,
showing up, kept doing it, kept doing it. Didn't care if it sucked, didn't care if it was great. Some of it was probably brilliant, some of it sucked, but he kept going.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and I think like there's something to be said about that, man. And that's something that like, and going back to even to what you're going through is with your lows, right? You still came back home, still showed up. Because guess what? Whether you want to show up or you don't want to show up is irrelevant. You're there. It's part of
yeah,
your
man.
life.
Yeah. No, I think that having the guests on a podcast is a fantastic thing. All the admin stuff and everything. I think we're moving in the right direction. Is just cleaning it up a little bit. The one thing that I put together is the show notes page on Google Docs. Basically,
Yeah.
just what we're talking about. So it's easy. Like when you upload it and everything, you have show notes, just basically a description of what it is, and then links to our page. So whenever you upload and everything, because I'm not really marketing it, I know it's some good content that we can market and stuff. I haven't even got the YouTube. I make the YouTube, but there I can make the banner better too. So I haven't gotten in a good rhythm with it too. So don't beat yourself up. This is a side project until it becomes something. But I think it helps me get my words out, which is or expression out, which is good for me, especially first thing in the morning on Monday, where I could kind of aim and talk about what I'm doing as well too. This podcast is part of what I'm doing. So, like sharing my message, elevating the vibrations, teaching everybody about like health and nutrition, how it relates to like personal development. So it's part of my brand. So what I'm working on is the functional aesthetics program at Peak Performance Academy. So that's really the main thing I'm focusing on, and just focusing on bringing people to the community. People got invites, people listen and everything. Having guests on the show is a great idea because we get to see different people's perspective from our show as well too. And learning that stuff about Eamon was like super interesting. I've known him, but I've never known him like that, about him. And now as a coach is and like putting myself out there, people automatically actually like they tell me their hard stories almost like immediately, right? Um I've during my coaching calls, and the cool thing is I just wrapped up my certification. I just submitted. It was like 100 hours. 100 hours.
Damn.
It was intense.
Congrats, man.
Thank you. This is like it was more than a college course. Like it was like 100 hours. I don't know how many college courses that is, but lectures, breakout sessions, practice. Like I had to do 60 hours of like coaching hours, like one on one. And I call this podcast as like part of my coaching hours as well too, because the thought process is somebody will listen to our conversation and then with their coaching as well too. So that's completed. So 100 hours. My goal is to
Yeah.
uh, be certified, just so when I do make it big, or like somebody believes in me, that like, hey, I'm actually not just like a guy that read a bunch of books. Hey, I followed some kind of track, but that's just for me personally. Like certifications don't make money. I realize that your education don't make money. It doesn't mean shit. So anybody that's like going into entrepreneurship thinking that you got this fancy degree and you're gonna make money, You're dead wrong.
Yeah, I mean, dude, like I got my degree in biology, right? I never got a degree in marketing. I
Yeah.
never went to school for marketing, you know, so
I
it's
think the one I think the ones that are successful are the ones that just stick around long enough. That's really, I think, the name of the game. Like, no, like, went into business, like, literally, I told my dad, this is a funny ass story. He came to VCU. It was like my junior or senior year, getting ready to graduate. I made some friends and everything. But it was cool because, so it was like the last visit my mom visited me, and she was getting pretty sick at that time. And some of my friends actually knew that she was sick. She had cancer, but it was like my senior year, and I know a lot of people at the community or at the school. I was a pretty popular guy. So when we were walking at this event, it was like on a Sunday. My dad was there and my mom was there, and I kind of told, I don't think I told him what my major was at the time, but I told him, hey, Dad, I'm going to be going into business. Right. And he looked at me. He was like, what? You? Like, because I was like a very introverted person, like pretty much my whole life. And my dad didn't see me like when I grew up at college, where I was a little bit more outgoing and friendly. And during that visit, during like the VCU campus, everybody saw me and my mom and everything and my dad, and they were so friendly to us. Like, they were giving me like high fives and like saying, is that your mom, and like making them feel very welcome. And then I think at that moment, my mom and my dad was like very proud. I was getting ready to graduate, and like I made all these friends at like school and stuff. And that's probably for me like one of my biggest moments. And to be able to tell or show my dad now, hey, I made the right decision of business. Because he really was like, you?
yeah, man, that's impactful. No, I mean,
Yeah. He
you
still
got to
tells
trust.
me, I was like, yeah. I was like, Dad, I need to do this. I don't know why. It just feels so compelled. Like, I have to do business. I
And here you are, man, and that's just it, like, and I think that there's a lot to be said around that, and like I'm stoked for you that you had that moment, and like, and there's so many times that I think when we think about like, no matter what, man, like when you like, I had the similar experience with my mom. My mom was trying to convince me to be a bartender for the longest time. Like, that was
really
my mom's.
he
Yeah, oh
wanted you.
yeah,
That was
oh
the
my
aspiration.
god, because she knew that bartenders make a decent amount of money and just about anybody could do it. So as
She
I
did.
was going through like my snowboarding career, she was constantly like, "You should just start bartending," because I was
Yeah.
struggling with money. And I struggled with money for a long time, right? You should bartend. You should bartend. You should bartend. And I'll never forget that. And then like when I was like, Mom, I'm going to go into business for myself, right? She was like, "Oh, Danny, I don't know if you should do that. You shouldn't do that. Like that. You need a job. You have kids. You can't start a business, kind of thing, right?" And it would just kind of kept snowballing. And I was like, "No, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I'm doing this." And then just recently, funny enough, I was talking to her about like, okay, so we're going to Italy this year, right? So I was like trying to think about what I could do with the business, and I've been approached by a couple M&A firms and people interested in potentially buying the business. And
Yeah.
I was telling her, I was like, I'm thinking about it. I don't know. I'm not ready to sell, but I'm kind of thinking, what if I did sell? Like, what would that be like? And she was like, "Oh, you can't sell your business. You need that. You need that for stability." And it was
Ooh,
funny. It was that moment that I realized, I was like, wait a second.
I'm your wife.
Now
Sorry.
all of a sudden, the mom that was telling me I needed to find a job and I needed to go, you
Yeah.
know, anything, get a bartending job, is now telling me, no, don't get rid of your business. You need your job. So she thinks of it of like, you need a job, right? Like, and
Yeah.
it was interesting to me. On the flip side, my father, I have a similar story with my father. And my dad, I always wanted my father's approval, right? Like I always was seeking my father's approval in all that I did. And I got it for the most part. But there's a lot of like questionable things. My dad grew up in Jersey City and he had to fight for everything that he had and ended up, getting into the corporate world and made himself pretty successful. And that was his life. So
Yeah.
he, tried to get me to do a similar path. And I chose snowboarding, and he had a lot of reserves around that. But right at my dad's like last couple months on this earth, I sat down with him and he was concerned. So I had a cannabis company at one point. I was selling cannabis cigarettes when I was in Oregon, and we
Mhm.
crushed it. We blew up into 7 different dispensaries. We circumnavigated all of Portland. My profit margin was 600%. I had an investor lined up. Like we were slated to make $1 million in revenue in the first year alone, and 600% of that was going to be profit, right? Off of what we were selling it for, or making it for, I should say. So I'm I got to the point with that where I decided to marijuana wasn't my passion and I was only doing it for money. So I decided to back out. I didn't take the investment. And that stuck with my dad for the longest time. And my dad, I'll never forget, I was at the grocery store with him and I was telling him that I was going to do this digital marketing business. And he was like, Danny, he's like, I don't know, everything that you've ever done, like you were going to do really well with that marijuana business and you gave it up. And you were doing really well with snowboarding and you gave it up. And I think that you should really think about this. Maybe you should get a job. Da, da, da. I was like, Dad, I gave it up because I could see where I would end, and I didn't want to end there. Right? Like I didn't want to be known as the marijuana cigarette guy. I didn't want that to be in part of my legacy. I knew that snowboarding was great, but I also knew that I wasn't going to end in some major big position. So then I was like, you know what though? Digital marketing, I'm going to crush it. And I was like, Dad, I guarantee you that I'm going to make more money than everybody else in our family. And
Like you.
that's when he turned to me and he goes, okay, I believe you. And I'll never forget him, those words. Those are the last time that was the first time that my father really gave me his conviction that, and what I was doing like that. Right. And that really meant a lot to me. And then shortly after he died, I landed one of my biggest contracts with a defense contracting business, which he happened to be a part of that business. So it was interesting on how the cookie crumbled, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's interesting too on your side with your dad. And it's like when you get that moment of I'm going to do this, and people think you're crazy, that means that you're pretty much onto something, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
try
then
not
as you go,
to think I'm absolutely crazy. So I live you gotta live a little some mystery in there too, so people can be like,
right.
like I can't tell everybody what exactly. Like people ask me, "What do you do like all day?" I was like, "I can't tell you exactly." Okay.
I sit there and bob in a corner, just like I'm gonna get through it. No, it's it.
Walking back
Yeah, I
and forth
mean,
to the house. That's what I'm doing. That's the
yeah,
hallway.
pacing in the
The
hallway. I mean,
thing
but
is,
look,
I pace around my apartment all day so I could get the stress out.
I mean,
But
the stress is
it's a healthy stress. That's why
that's it.
it's a stress that you put on yourself, and then it's like the type of stress that because I got caught up during the vacation. Like people was talking about the corporate world, and it was like making me question like my choices on like being an entrepreneur. It's like because I'm so is in a transition, and when you're in a transition, there's no certainty. Certainty is one thing that you want from a like it's a human emotion that we're a human need that we want. When we don't have certainty, we're like anxious, anxious, anxious. So that's part of human nature and stuff. So, and for me, the best way to find certainty is go to the gym and get back right into my rhythm of feeling like, hey, I got control of my own universe. That's when I talk about it, like going inside and stuff and controlling your own universe. When I went on vacation, I just felt like I was outside my universe and had to get back into this feeling of like certainty, and that just involved me just walking around and stressing out and meditating and journaling and doing what I needed to do.
Well, you know what, man? That brings up a really interesting point because, and I think that that's important when you're talking about like, okay, I was on vacation, my friends were in, they're in the corporate world. Dude, the grass is always greener syndrome I've experienced in almost everything that I've done. Like, I'll never forget riding in the chairlift. I'm riding in the chairlift, right? My At this point, I probably snowboarded 300 days of that season alone, right? I'm snowboarding for a living, which is a dream for a lot of people. And not
Yeah.
only am I snowboarding for a living, but I'm snowboarding for a living for myself. I had my own business. So it was like really like the holy grail for a lot of people. I was paid just enough to survive, but I wasn't making buku bucks. And meanwhile, I'm riding with very well-known snowboarders, right? Very like high-level snowboarders. And I remember riding in the chairlift, looking down at we called them the Jerrys, right? The weekend warriors, the people that were just coming out having fun. Like they weren't trying to make it a profession. They were just having fun, having
Yeah.
drinks. They're falling all over the place. And I remember looking at those people being envious, like so envious of them, because I was like, those people don't care about if they're going to be better or worse, land this trick, not land this trick, fall, not fall, hurt themselves, not hurt themselves. They're just having fun. They're just enjoying this, and just there's pure enjoyment that they're having. I remember being envious of those people.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to entrepreneurship, where you hit the lows. And I remember so many times, like even not so much recently, I've had stronger conviction in what I'm doing now. But what I realized was I started getting job offers. You know how attractive an executive salary is when you're running your own business and you're not generating revenue?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know how attractive that is? It's like, hey, Danny, I see, you're doing your own business. That's great. Why don't you come work for us? I'll pay you 150 grand, $175,000 to come work for us. And you say no. Like, do you realize like that's like one of those things that's like you have to have a lot of conviction in yourself, right? And I think there's so many times like and this is so true for so many folks. It's like when you are on your own journey, on your own personal journey, whether that be entrepreneurship or not, you're going to always be tempted by distractions and shiny
Mm-hmm.
objects. And so many times, like in the business world, we call them the golden handcuffs. The golden handcuffs originally came from when you sell a
Yeah.
business,
I've heard it.
and then they bring you on for an extended period of time with an earn out option, right? So you're literally tied to it. Otherwise, you can't get the gold at the end. Um, and it's like, why would I want to give up this freedom? And that's something, the one thing that I can definitely get through these things and avoid these temptations and stay focused is, and the one thing that I know for a fact I can do is when I was an executive, I used to dread waking up in the morning,
Yeah.
primarily because I knew I was going to have notifications on my phone from work with some type of fire I was going to have to put out. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to deal with it. Now I wake up and I'm excited to be showing up to work. I'm excited for my job, which
Yeah.
I've
You're
created for
on
myself.
future problems and stuff. That's what like entrepreneurship is like. The problems I'm trying to solve are like future problems that I foresee. It's not. I'm not reacting. I'm thinking about future podcasts, future programming, future vision and stuff. So it's different. That the term golden
And
hand. One of my best friend Dean and I talked about it well too. So that's why I think I was climbing the corporate ladder too. Uh, I was this director of resident services, and I was like, shit wasn't worth it because people, when you're always, you got somebody to report to, or just, I don't know. I don't know if it's more of a men thing where you always want freedom. You always want to be able, like, to be able to call your own shots. A certain level of freedom is like what I'm searching for. Like, the biggest goal that I have, or biggest insecurity that I have when you talk about like money, like we all grew up like you, me, we didn't get thrown with like money or anything. I came from dirt, we didn't have money, so we were always like poor, didn't have money. So money is a thing. So shit, I think I lost my point. But like feeling like money as an insecurity to like get money is a good thing. Like I've had to dig deep and we're like, yeah, we came from dirt. Like I might seem like I'm having a bad time now, but like at least I'm not like eating tuna out of a can. Right? In college I had to eat tuna out of a can and got sick. Now I got chicken thighs, I got ground turkey, I got salmon. They're higher quality, right? I could be grateful for those simple things. Like people ask
right.
me, like, do I bodybuild for so long? It's like, well, just grateful for those kind of little things. And then, um, Shit, I was talking about the corporate world. I completely lost my time. But I'm outside the corporate world. I'm back doing my own thing. Like this makes me happy and genuinely like excited to wake up and solve my future problems and stuff, so I could have the life that I want. And the exciting thing is, I'm experiencing the life that I want right now. You know,
Hmm?
I'm always experiencing it at the moment. Like I'm pursuing a professional bodybuilding career. I'm pursuing my own business, and the business lets me be who I am. I don't have to
Right.
be. When I worked at the corporate world, I was working. I love the core values of like the company and stuff, but you have to navigate towards the environment, and if you don't navigate towards the environment, which was against my values, you don't fit in the culture. And
Drink the Kool-Aid.
I was an entrepreneur living in the corporate world, and my ideas just didn't work, or it just, I don't know, right? So the philosophies and the work environment didn't work. So that's why I decided, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna go back into the corporate world.
Well, I think there's something else, and you hit something that struck a chord with me about future problems, right? And something that the one trait that I would say that all entrepreneurs share is that the entrepreneurs are good problem solvers, right? And that's something that I think we're ultimately good problem solvers. And I think that there's this concept, right? And there's two parts to it. One, if I threw a problem at you right now, let's call it, it doesn't matter what it is. Let's call it a financial problem. It doesn't matter,
Yeah.
right? But you had to figure out a way to make an extra $1,000. You had to figure out a way to do X, Y, or Z for a financial purpose. You could probably solve that if you were held your feet to the fire. You would probably figure out a way to make it happen, right? And that's the kind of overarching trait that all entrepreneurs share. And it doesn't matter what the problem is; we're just good at solving them. When the problem arises, we're prepared. We have tools to solve those problems. Where I think it's interesting is when you talk about solving your future problems. This is where entrepreneurs fall into analysis paralysis. And if we get too caught up and trying to solve for future problems. Therefore, what we're actually trying to do is prevent future problems from actually occurring.
Hmm.
We slow our growth because those future problems aren't real. They're not real. They're not our reality yet. The future isn't here. And I know you speak a lot about this, but we have only now, right? So what I tell entrepreneurs is don't worry about solving your future problems. What you should be trying to do is create more problems fast.
Okay.
Go
Yep.
create problems.
Like that.
Why? Because you're really good at solving them. And guess where the money is? The money is in the solution of the problem, right? That's where the money actually comes. The money doesn't come because we've prepared for the future. You could sit in a hole for the next 10 years and make the most epic business plan in the world, have your crystal ball and have, foresee the future. And then as soon as you launch and you start actually doing the business, the world could change. And if you like, it doesn't matter. Like you can't like there's so much. It's like chaos theory, right? Anything that has happened will happen and will happen again. So
Yeah.
how on earth can you solve for every single thing inside of life? You just can't. You
Yeah.
can't. And the trick isn't to try to prevent it. The trick is to be proactive to create it. And you welcome the problems open armed and
Yeah.
go and try and search for those problems, right? Um, that's the real key to it. And
Create.
it's create problems, man. I'm a big fan of creating problems. Why? Because we can fucking solve it when it's here
Yeah.
and we're good at it.
Like that. Create problems. I definitely visualize things that like are giving me stress or anxiety. Or sometimes actually I think it might be the same thing where if I'm visualizing the future, and that's true to that point because I've solved problems where it wasn't really a problem and I've done some wasted time. Like entrepreneurship, when you're building a business and stuff, there's like some direction that you build something, you're like, that's not gonna work. And then you consider it a waste of time. So it's like I've spent some time now thinking about problems, like how you just said, think about it. You spend more time creating issues or problems at the present moment and then solving that. I think that's a great mental reframe for me because I will always think sometimes, oh, I think I was taught in one of the business books, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. It's to always keep the end in mind. But I think you do have to live in the present, especially when it's like entrepreneurship. Have the end, like the thought of where you want to be. Of course, I want to be financially free, right? The figures in my head to be financially free, but I still have to, like, when we talk about now, that's strategy. You know, that's like day to day. I have to like learn how to navigate and create problems.
Well, even like the number that you have, right? And I think that there's something we said there too, where people are like, "Oh, if I had $1 million, if I had $10 million, I'd be set. I'm done." And then, but are you done? Are you really done? You're not done. You're nowhere near fucking done. If I gave you $10 million right now, poof, there you are. You have your financial freedom. Are you done? No. Do you get to just sit back and do nothing now? Is that the goal? Is that your purpose? Is that what you want to do? I highly doubt it. Right? So like, yeah, you want these things for current problems that you're trying to solve for, right? Maybe it's spending more time with kids. Maybe it's getting, college paid for. Maybe it's so you can upgrade your house. All these things, right? You have these desires for things that you believe are going to bring you pleasure, but when the pleasure is there, pleasure is fleeting and it's momentary. It's not happiness is fleeting. It's also in a moment. It's not joy. It's not fulfillment, right? It's just a blip on the radar. It's a moment in time where
Yeah.
you are happy or you're getting pleasure from something. So and then when that time goes, well, now you're still Sam Nang man, but now you have $10 million in the bank account, but who the fuck cares? Right? Like who cares? It doesn't
Um,
matter.
I really don't care about money. I care about muscles. If I have more money, I'm pretty happy.
Yeah, I mean, and even then, right? But once you have more muscles, then it's, well, what's your more, right? So I saw Matthew McConaughey just posted this recently, and I love it. And his question that he threw out there was, "What's your more?"
What's your
Because at the
more?
end of the day, you're always going to want more. But what is your more,
You know, that leads
right?
us into because we're near the end of the show, and I think we're talking about having like a question for our guests. And I think you asked me, "What is your more?" Like something like that at the end of the podcast would be good. I haven't thought of mine, but I think what you asked, what is more? Maybe you answer that, and I'll answer that, and then we could at the end the show, I
Sure,
guess. Yeah.
sure. It's something that I've actually been struggling with, and I've been putting a lot of thought into recently for myself, right? Because it started. Look,
What
I
is your
think
more?
there's nothing wrong with saying that I want to make money, right? So that was my first more. I need more money. Okay, cool. So now I'm solving for that. I'm not making the kind of money that I want to be making, but why do I want to make that? Why have the more? So then the next part of that is, well, I've built this team. I now have 8 employees and they're awesome. Like I built an all-star team. So now my more is I want to make sure that I keep food on their table,
Yeah,
right? So
that's your
that
biggest pain.
means that's part of my biggest pain is sustainability. But now I'm getting to the point where we're landing some contracts that's going to consistently put food on the table. So now what's my more, right? And so now it's like, well, I want to bring back the humanistic element, and I've been diving deep into this personally. And I think that there's a huge misconception in the digital marketing space. So here's my more in the digital marketing space, people throw their hand up and they go, I need digital marketing to grow my business. I need SEO. I need paid ads. I need social media. I need this. I need this. I need this. Why? Why do you really need it? Oh, I need to get more attention. Okay. Well, if you need to get more attention, then you need to start to care more. You need to be a human. There is no business to business. There is no business to consumer. There is only human to human.
Yeah,
That is the only transaction that ever happens. That's where money is transferred, is from human to human.
that's a really good
And it
fucking.
doesn't matter how big the deal is or how small the deal is or what tech is involved, what tech isn't involved. It doesn't matter. It is human to human sales. We're not at the point where we're doing machine to machine. That'll be interesting with AI if they start actually like trading. Like, I don't know what they'll trade, but like maybe it's like processing speeds or something. But human to human is the ultimate way that we do it, right? So my more and what I'm doing now is I want to bring back the humanistic element to
Mhm.
marketing, to sales, because you know what, at the end of the day, everybody should be able to enjoy the content and get value at it. And these businesses that have a shit ton of capital and a lot of money, they have a lot of value to bring beyond their products. And I think that that's where we're missing from a consumer level, is that I think, like, you look at, I take Alex Hormozy as a great example, right? He puts out all this content for free to make business education accessible for people, and he's created an entire movement around that. I know I've consumed his content, you're reading it, you're consuming it,
Yeah,
you're a part of his programs, right? So I think bigger businesses need to start to do that, and my more is to help businesses understand that and bring back value to the regular consumer, so we can elevate all of us, right? And go beyond just being a basic consumer and actually becoming educated to give people the tools that they need to go achieve their goals,
I like
right?
that.
So that's kind of my more. So
And then
I'll turn it
it
over.
educates like the younger generation, because the younger generation wants different things in jobs. They want like time, they want flex money, more money, right? That's kind of big things that I'm trying to, like, when you talk about more money and stuff, I want more money and more time, right? So that's why I went to the route of entrepreneurship. How effective can I be? But I think when you say what's more and stuff, like, what, it's almost like, what more do you want out of life? To me, I want to, and you asked too, it's kind of like money and work and what you want to do, it kind of all aligns together. To me, is like when you talk about like the humanistic side. For me, the humanistic side of like what I'm doing is, there's like struggles on like personal development, and that people have like big pain points on how to start and how to get started. And like nutrition, right, is learning how, like, the pain points are how to eat untrained when they're busy, or when they're stressed out, or if they don't know how to cook, or just like start. That's to me like the biggest pain points that I see when I'm like coaching people that want to get started and like working out. And that's me just trying to figure out, like, do all the coaching and trying to ask my why and trying to figure out the big pain points. Those are some of the things that I want to help solve, because I know that health and fitness and nutrition and everything really is important to, one, your purpose and being the best version of yourself. And when you're the best version of yourself, you could give more to the universe. You know, it's a good like good effect, like passing out my good service that I learned and passing off to other people and giving out my expertise. But that's, I guess, what my more is. Money to me is just for me to do that more, right? More
Mm-hmm.
bodybuilding, more podcasting, more marketing, more time and stuff. So to me, I dedicated this to my life. So that's my more, and that's what I'm working on. Uh, I don't know if you want to end the show, but
Yeah, I think that's a good stopping block. So to the audience that's listening to this, process that question. What is your more? And it's kind of synonymous to your why, right? In a lot of regards.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, we all do want more, and that's okay. But just dive deep into it. What is your more? I think that that's an important question to ask. And I think that there comes a level of responsibility with it too. When it comes to money, when it comes to time, all that stuff, what are you going to do with it? And realize, that there's a lot more to it than just the money and the thrills and the cars and the houses and all the other crap. Like, so what? Who cares? So you have that. Imagine your
oh,
life that you have that. Now what?
there's more to alcohol than life than alcohol. That's what I can say. I think the big talk that
100%.
we're trying to get the point is alcohol keeps you from getting your more. Wait, I guess
Yeah.
we guess alcohol keeps you from getting your more, right? You want to be more yourself and everything. And that was good, man. I think this is a great episode. I'm glad to share it. So what I did is I wrote show notes
I
on
see
the
it.
yeah, on the document and everything, and I'll finish writing that, so I just have it fresh in my mind. And then whenever you
Super helpful.
yeah, you could just you have the thumbnail, you have the
Yep.
uh description on there, and then we could just keep it as is, and then when we're ready to like market it or whatever. uh I don't know what the goal is. I think the goal is just to keep recording them, right?
Just keep showing up, man. I mean, look, we'll naturally start to market it, and as we have guests, they'll start sharing it.
Yeah.
I think for this, we look at this as like a pure organic play. Um, and I think for me, like, I know I'm just learning about the process, right? So I'm learning about how to properly run a podcast, and to do it. So it's like that's my excitement and what the enjoyment that I'm getting out of it. And it's inspiring me. Like I'm definitely going to probably start my own podcast on top of this one too. I'll still do this one, but I'm going to do one specifically around the business side of it. But I think for now, we just keep doing it the way that we've been doing it and share stories and throw it out there, and it'll naturally market itself.
Okay, I trust you. I know.
Yeah, man.
When you have your coach, your boss, I tell you with that level of like trust of like casualty, that he knows his shit. Nah, I'm not worried about it. I think showing up and getting my words out is enough for me. And then I have it. I think I was talking to a mentor of mine, and he was saying those are assets. Because sometimes you think that you're just doing stuff just to do stuff, and it just like nobody listening. And I was like, he called it assets, and I was like, oh, I never looked at like my Instagram as an asset or my LinkedIn
Sure.
profile. Like, oh,
Yeah. You
okay,
never know. I mean, one of these episodes might be hyper relevant in 3 years from now, and someone was going to find it and find you, and it's going to pay off for in some ROI. So it's like 100% their assets. So
yeah, neat man. I'm loving this journey. I love the podcast as well too. So this is for me, it's an asset and it's also a benefit for when things are good. Like it's a benefit for everyone. That's a good relationship, and we're also cool.
oh yeah, man. All
Yeah,
right,
nice.
bro.
All right, bro.
Well,
I think
look,
that's talk, and then
that's
I'll
it.
here.
Flow in, flow out. New episodes every Monday, Friday. My boy Sam Nang, Danny Marawinski here. Thanks for joining us. We will be on next or later this week as well. All right.
All right, talk to you later,
See you,
Danny.
brother.